Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kotaku Splitscreen, Episode 8. This is a very special one. We will be talking exclusively about one game, one of the biggest games of the year. It came out earlier this week on Tuesday, November 10th. It's called Rodea the Sky Soldier. It came out for 3DS, Wii, and Wii U. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Kirk?
It's gonna be really cool. I'm excited.
And over there, the guy who just talked is my co-host, Kirk Hamilton. My name is Jason Schreier, by the way, in case you are not familiar. I imagine if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably familiar with that. We are both huge Rodea the Sky Soldier fans, so we're really excited to get into this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking forward to this episode for just months and months, that we can finally really dig into Sky Soldier. Everything about this game, really.
Well, you remember in 2013 when there were all sorts of rumors floating around about Rodea the Sky Soldier, and we happened to get our hands on some casting documents that were sent to us, some scripts.
It was a really exciting scoop, I think, for all fans of the game and the genre.
Just a huge scoop for Rodea fans everywhere. We have a very special guest today, the one, the only Kotaku writer. Not the only Kotaku writer, but the one and only Patricia Hernandez. Hi, Patricia.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's good.
Patricia, are you ready to talk about Rodea the Sky Soldier? Patricia's been doing nothing but playing.
I must admit, I'm a newbie to the series.
Just unfamiliar with Rodea.
I'm wondering how long we can keep this going. Do you think we could really do a whole podcast about this game that I think you're the only one who knows anything about?
I know nothing about it. I'm just looking at Wikipedia, and there's a list of games that came out this week.
Just like, here's a game that came out this week?
Well, so the list of games that came out this week are Rise of the Tomb Raider, Rodea the Sky Soldier, StarCraft II, Legacy of the Void, Super Beat, Exonic. That's a Vita game. Weird. I didn't know they were still making Vita games. Back to the Future, Sword Art Online, Lost Song, Football Manager 2016 for PC, Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival that comes out tomorrow. And a little game called Fallout 4. That is the actual thing we are going to be talking about.
I have a proposition. What if we just talk about Fallout 4 maybe in this episode? What if we made that our focus?
I don't know, Patricia. What do you think?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Patricia's in. I think it sounds like a good idea. Let's talk about Fallout 4.
I guess we have to talk about Fallout 4.
So how far are you guys?
Yeah. How far are we? Jason, you go first. How far are you?
Well, I've been marathoning StarCraft because I'm reviewing that one, so I haven't had a ton of time to play. So I've played probably 4 or 5 hours, and then it didn't help that Amazon decided not to deliver my game on release day. Even though they said they would.
The lie of release day delivery. It's pretty heartbreaking.
But yeah, I played a few hours. I got past all the starting stuff, went to Diamond City, did a couple quests. What about you guys? Patricia, you've been playing it nonstop since Tuesday, right?
I think I'm close to 24 hours right now. So.
That's pretty good. Do you find that, like, I don't trust my game clocks anymore in video games like this? Like, I guess I leave it on during the day a lot, or it's just sitting there to the left while I'm working because I'm checking things or getting screenshots. And I feel like my play clock is probably already hopelessly inflated.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to consider, too, is a lot of that is, like, just staring at menus, not necessarily going off into the wasteland. Like, I've spent so long just going through my junk menu, being like, I don't know if I need this. Like, what do I do with this? And,
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. It's a lot to handle. So I guess, and I should say how much I've played. I haven't played that much. I think my Steam clock says 10 hours, but I don't think that's accurate. I probably played like 5 or 6 hours. I got to Diamond City. I did some side quests, but mostly I've just walked around and felt pretty overwhelmed by the game. I think it's that Bethesda thing where you start the game and you feel sort of not really able to deal with anything. But it's been fun. I feel like we've been in this chat room. We have a group chat at Kotaku where we just kind of throw questions in and observations because so many of us are playing it at the same time. And it's been really cool to kind of all discover the game together and ask, people who've played a little more, like Patricia, you're farther than me, and Chris Solentrop is farther than me too, and to sort of ask for tips and to learn stuff off of the internet. It's all been very organic. I've been kind of having a fun time.
I think it's interesting because a lot of their marketing before the game was released focused a lot on the intro of the game, which is only probably like 10 minutes, like if it's really rushed. And it acted like a good trick because a lot of the stuff that was actually in the wasteland is now a surprise to everyone. Like, almost nobody has seen any of this stuff beforehand except for maybe like one bar, I think maybe there's a screenshot of, and Diamond City, but it doesn't give you a good sense of like the actual density of what's in there, you know?
So let's talk about that intro, because at the beginning of the game, you get the whole pre-war experience, and I guess I was kind of hoping that you would see more. When the game opens up, it's set in 2077, right? And then so this is before the bombs have fallen and before any of the stuff we know as Fallout has really taken place. And it seems like they created this whole big, like, pre-war world and only gave it to us for what, 20 seconds? Like 60 seconds?
Maybe. I feel like based on just remembering Fallout 3 and some of the weird things they did with virtual reality and whatever in that game, I don't know. I mean, I haven't played enough of this game, so if you guys know, don't spoil me maybe, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if we do more playing back in that time for like period some way or another. Like if they use that stuff, you know, like there's so many different ways that they could take us back there. It'd surprise me if they didn't. But yeah, I agree. I sort of liked that twist. I didn't know, did we know going into it that it was that we were cryogenically frozen? Was that something that you reported, Jason, and then just didn't tell us? Like, or did I kind of glaze over that just so that I didn't feel spoiled? Because I didn't know that going in that was going to be sort of the setup. I was trying to figure out how are we going to get from here to Fallout, and then the freezing thing happened, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, well, so I think that I had mentioned in my post back in 2013, the leak casting post, that you woke up from being frozen. The things that I knew that I hadn't told anyone, and I kept this stuff secret for 2 years, was that your spouse gets shot in the head and your kid gets kidnapped, because that stuff was all in the casting scripts that I saw. I had seen a bunch of casting scripts that we didn't actually wind up posting, and some of them had a lot of the dialogue with like Piper and the mayor. There was stuff with Preston Garvey. There's a lot of stuff in there that I never actually wound up posting for various reasons, but primarily because I didn't want to spoil it for people. But yeah, it's funny. So I kind of came into this knowing part of what to expect in a weird way. And it's funny how much they actually hadn't changed since the casting scripts they used in 2013.
Well, it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, it's a strong narrative setup. I can see why they would stick with it. It's a cool idea that it's a way to show us, you know, that weird retro future world that we always get hinted at in Fallout with, you know, but then still letting us play the same character that we created in the actual 200 years in the future.
Yeah, it's just funny that they use the exact same dialogue for auditions. I would think they would come up with something like that wouldn't spoil things when they're auditioning new people, you know what I mean? When they're looking for voice actors.
Yeah, that does make sense. That's funny.
I remember for the TV show Lost, they would always put out these casting calls, and it would always be totally fake because they didn't want to ruin anything for everyone, because they knew that spoiler hunters would be digging into all the casting calls for information. So they would just make up names and make up descriptions. So I figured Bethesda had done something like that. But anyway, so we're at the beginning of the game. So yes, I guess I spoiled. Sorry for spoiling the beginning of the game.
Well, we'll put a warning in this. I feel like anything in the first maybe few hours of this game is pretty fair.
It's over in the first 10 minutes. I feel like that's a pretty fair game. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can let people know up front maybe that's going to be in here. But
fair enough. So, Patricia, when you got out of the vault, did you just wander around, or did you go straight to where you were supposed to go, straight to that city? Where
I did for a little bit. I did wander for a tiny bit, but the thing is, I don't know, Fallout 4 is a lot harder than both 3 and New Vegas. It's more in line with the original game, so I feel like I got smacked down really quickly, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go where I'm supposed to go, because otherwise I'm not gonna survive. And even then, if you stick to the story missions, which is a lot of what I've been doing now to be able to write this review, it's still really difficult, surprisingly difficult. Not completely impossible or anything like that. You just have to be smarter. So that's been an interesting change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. I feel like I saw some tips online that said that it's a good idea to stick with the story to Diamond City and sort of move through that. I think it feels like those missions give a lot of XP too, so I'm leveling up kind of quickly. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely not easy. especially the mobs of enemies I'm finding. I went to, I think it was Lexington, and ran into this mob of super mutants, and then just it escalated so quickly. It was a kind of great moment. I'm like, suddenly I'm getting rushed by about 10, or not super mutants, it was 10, what are they called? Ghouls, the like feral ghouls. Are rushing me, and they're kind of easy to kill one at a time, but there's so many of them, and I'm trying to deal with them, and then suddenly someone's shooting at me, and there are nuclear explosions happening, and I like run out, and just it reminded me of Fallout 3.
God, I got hit with a mini nuke so early into the game. Like, I think I was an hour and 30 minutes into it when all of a sudden this nuclear explosion goes off. But yeah, actually, what I wanted to ask was, have you guys encountered any of those like special legendary enemies yet?
So I saw you talking about that, but I'm actually not sure what that means. What does a legendary enemy look like?
I mean, they look like normal enemies. It's just when you look at them, they have like a little star or a little skull next to their name. And then if you manage to kill them, they have more HP. If you manage to kill them, they drop something special. Like I killed a special raider, and he dropped like this nocturnal rolling pin that I think I shared a screenshot of on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
That like gets stronger as the night goes on. And then I killed this like legendary hound thing, and it dropped a leather chest piece or something, which is kind of weird because I wasn't wearing that, but whatever. I guess it's made out of the hound skin. So those have been interesting so far. I can never decide when I see them if I like want to charge at them or if I want to run away, because they're going to be really difficult.
Yeah, so it's the thing with the skull and crossbones next to the name. I have run into a couple of those, but I didn't realize what they were. I ran into one. Did you guys go? One of the things I found that I posted yesterday was that I found the bar Cheers, or a bar based on Cheers, off of Boston Common, which is really funny on its own. But so in Boston Common, there's a Swan Lake, I think it's called, or it's like the Swan Park. Have you guys found that?
No, I don't think so.
Swan Park? What does that mean?
Oh, I almost don't want to tell you, but it's funny. There's a funny little gag that happens there. But there's an enemy there that turned up, and it's this really epic monster, and it has a name, and it had a skull and crossbones next to it. So it must be that I couldn't kill it. It destroyed me, and I ran away. But it must be that when you go back and kill it, you get something special. So that's kind of cool. I like that idea. I feel like that adds an interesting new layer to just exploring.
So one of the problems I'm having with the game is that there's no way to tell what level an enemy is. So when I get killed by an enemy, I don't know if it's because I'm doing something wrong or just because I'm totally outclassed by that level, by that enemy's level. Like, I wish there was more feedback in the game about that sort of thing. You know, am I the only one? Do you guys agree?
I agree. I mean, I think the game it withholds a lot of information, I'm finding. Like, I think that maybe old Fallouts were this way too, but I feel like there's a lot in this game that it just doesn't explain to you at all.
I'm kind of enjoying that in a way, though, because, I don't know, by the time I hit New Vegas, or even in the DLC in Fallout, I felt like a lot of the world was just really a known quantity, and now it feels like, even though I'm familiar with this world and like all the different mechanics, there's still sort of some sense of wonder. Although I will admit sometimes some of the things that are confusing is just because of like bad UI or whatever. But I kind of enjoy not knowing if an enemy will wreck me or not, because then, you know, there's some experimentation there, and it can be frustrating, but it also feels like a learning experience. I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I think that, right, it's like there's a difference between the two things. I like I'm fine with the idea of enemies that beat you and you're not sure whether you can actually take them or not, and you have to fight them a few times to realize that you're not there. But yeah, I mean, I think that what I'm mostly complaining about are things like the crafting UI and the inventory, and the way that you don't know how much junk you have or where you store it or what turns into what, and just how completely arcane and ridiculous some of those are. Like, those systems, I just feel like I'm wasting my time in menus just trying to get my head around what the hell I even am carrying and like how to move it around, and so that bums me out. But yeah, the idea that there are things that I might come across in the game that I don't understand and that I have to figure out is very cool.
You know what game has great menus? Rodea and the Sky Zone.
Yeah, it's a masterclass in UI design.
Yeah. Get your shit together, Fallout. Yeah, I mean, so what about the idea that I've heard a lot on the internet that this doesn't feel like a next-gen Fallout? It just feels like kind of an extension of Fallout 3, something that could have been on the last generation of consoles. Patricia, would you agree with that sentiment?
I mean, I think I can see what people are saying in that it doesn't quite look like a next-gen game. Like, you compare Fallout 4's graphics to The Witcher or Metal Gear Solid, and it comes out lacking. And certainly, the games have a lot of jank to them, but and also it does feel like an iteration. But I also am struggling to think like what a quote unquote next gen Fallout would look like.
Yeah, I think that's like, I think that reaction to the surface appearance of the game is understandable. I had it too. I mean, I've been running it on a couple of PCs, and one of them is an old one, and I have it turned down to medium. And on medium on PC, it looks just like pretty much like Fallout 3 most of the time anyway. The lighting is nicer, some of the visuals are nicer. They've learned a few new tricks, but yeah, it's still janky. It still looks like that kind of game. I'm not sure yet. I just haven't played enough to know whether the thing this game is doing that a game like The Witcher or even Metal Gear isn't doing is the level of just the level of stuff in it and the amount of simulation that's going on. It's simulating so many different things at once. I'm not sure yet whether that's
Witcher isn't doing that. Witcher's doing that too.
No, but like not like in Fallout. Like it isn't like you can just pick up every single object in The Witcher and carry it around and move it and stack it together. And like in The Witcher, you can't really pick up very many things. And the things that you do pick up don't appear as actual physical objects in the world. So it's a pretty substantial difference in like what the game is having to deal with at any given moment.
Well, you know what? I would trade being able to pick up anything for the feeling that as I'm playing and talking to people, things will remain stable and I won't accidentally destroy a quest because someone couldn't leave a room. Like I was in a bar in Diamond City and like it took a solid 10 minutes for that one guy. You know that part where you get into the bar and this one guy punches out the bartender, or the bartender punches him out, and like he thinks the bartender's sleeping with his wife or whatever.
No, I haven't even seen this scene yet.
Oh, really? It's right in Diamond City. Well, whatever. That's a scene. So you get there, you get into the bar, and the bartender is talking to a patron, and the patron starts to fight with him, and the bartender punches him out. And so that guy is supposed to leave the bar so you can trigger a conversation with the bartender. But my guy just wouldn't leave. He just kept walking into a table. So I just saw an animation of him walking forward into a table, and I tried to talk to everyone, and it just said, "This character's busy." And I was like, oh, shit, like the game is already broken for me. So that's the type of thing that happens so often in this game, and I know a lot of us were hoping that PS4, like Xbox One, all this memory, all this RAM, you would think that they would be able to get this shit together and at least make it a little more stable. But alas, they have not, which is an important.
Well, and the stability thing is a little different, right? Or the bugs are a little different than than that earlier next gen question. Like, I think we've already learned this a couple of years into this console generation that, more RAM doesn't mean fewer bugs. If anything, it means more complicated games that have more bugs. So that I just given how ambitious Bethesda is and how they kind of, for better or for worse, the engine they use and the tech they use, I'm not surprised that this game still has bugs in it. But I guess I view that as sort of separate from the question of is this game, taking full advantage of all this new cool technology that they could be using?
Well, I guess the reason I think they're linked is because if it did more stuff that felt to me like innovative and like this huge improvement over the last Fallout or even Skyrim, then I would be more inclined to forgive the bugs, I guess. Not that this level of jankiness is really forgivable ever. And like if you're playing a game and you have to like have this sense of foreboding that quests could break anytime, that's kind of inexcusable. But if it was doing things that were more advanced and next gen, quote unquote, and like interesting and unique ways that I hadn't seen before, then I'd be like, okay, like I can deal with the bugs. I guess their one big evolution is the whole crafting, building settlements system. I guess that's their big claim to fame for this game. Patricia, I know you've spent some time building settlements. Have you built anything cool? Any dicks? Have you built any dicks?
You know what? I was surprised I haven't seen that many people building dicks online. I've honestly tried to stay away from the settlements initially just because I know how big of a time sink they can be. Like, that can be a game unto itself, and it would not surprise me if some people exclusively play settlements just because there's so much to it, and you can build all these awesome houses, and I've just seen all these ridiculous things that people are building. Like, this one guy I saw built like this huge shrine to cats, which is kind of hilarious. And
shrine, what does that mean, a shrine to cats?
There's just, I don't know if you've noticed this, but some people will have paintings that are just cats. So the paintings are just everywhere. And actually, yesterday on Twitter, one of the Bethesda lead artists reached out to me and was like, oh, actually, those cats are based on my actual cats. And he showed me pictures of the cats. And they're the same thing. And there's just a bunch of other smaller things that you can put in there. Like, there are candles and, like, people get creative. I feel like shrines are a tried and true, like, meme within video games. Like, it's a thing in Animal Crossing too. I don't know if you've seen those, the weird shrines people build to Iwata and stuff. So it's not surprising that people have built those in Fallout also.
Yeah, I was really flummoxed by the crafting system at first because I was doing it like the first place it showed me anyway, because I didn't really go back to the first settlement. So the first place it showed me was at that Red Rocket truck stop, which is sort of just a base of operations if you want to build a base. But I've started doing the stuff back at what's the town called? It's something like Sanctuary. Is that
Sanctuary?
Sanctuary. So I've gone back to Sanctuary and realized that okay, this is the settlement game here, and what I'm curious is, and maybe Patricia, maybe you know this, maybe not. What is the end game of settlements? Is there like what are you going toward? Are you just trying to get more people in your settlement? Is that the goal?
Well, at least so far, to me, it just seems like it's a resource you can build. Like, you can make a garden, and some people have figured out how that garden can give you adhesives, which then you can build to, like, you can use to build more powerful things in your modifications. And, like, Codsworth can give you purified water, which you can use to heal yourself, and then you don't have to buy stim packs because they're really good. And yeah, I think it's basically a resource thing, or at least that's what I see as the biggest benefit to building. Aside from just aesthetically, you can make a cool thing,
Right. Because the possibilities are staggering when I look at that settlement. Because I was like raising houses and you can build whole, giant superstructures for these people to live in. I'm not really sure how big it gets, but the footprint, like the space of the settlement is really large, and I felt really overwhelmed. Like, the game is already overwhelming just in the size of it, and the notion of building a settlement that big and making it as, getting all Minecraft on it, just kind of, maybe it's partly that the interface just doesn't really support that enough for me. Like, using it isn't pleasant or easy, but like, I just can't imagine doing it, though I'm sure people do crazy stuff in it.
Oh yeah. I think it's a matter of time.
So do you think the thought process in 2011 or 2012 or whatever was just like, hey, there's this game called Minecraft. We should do that.
I'm curious about that. I wonder if, I feel like it's a smart decision for them, right? Because their games this has been true for a while, that all of the stuff in their games, you've been able to pick up all this junk. Patricia, I think you mentioned this in the article you wrote earlier this week, that it's been a thing in the Bethesda Fallout games and in Skyrim and in Oblivion, that you walk through the world and pick up all these objects. So the leap from we can pick this up to let's make a whole huge crafting system based on this stuff that lets you make your own custom shit is actually a really smart one. I have issues with the way it's been implemented, but I think it almost seems like a logical move.
Yeah, it's too bad that you get over encumbered still. Like, that to me feels like a relic of an older time.
Yeah, I almost want to just cheat and turn that off. Like, it bums me out. It's just an annoying limitation, honestly. It
is, and it's very arbitrary, and it can be you can get around it just by like fast traveling and dropping stuff off places.
Right, but it's all just inconvenient. That annoys me.
I wonder if they'll ever be open to taking that off, just because it's so tied to their like trademark special thing, and like that's what strength is tied to. So I don't see them getting rid of it, even though it is annoying.
Yeah, it feels like a relic, and it does feel like they're stuck, like that because strength is so like tied to encumbrance, and because the special system is what it is, they can't really change it. But you're right. I mean, I almost wish they'd say, look, strength is just going to be melee damage now, and something else. You know, like you move faster in power armor. I don't know, and just get rid of the encumbrance because, like, you know, it's a drag.
Yeah, I also would have thought that they wouldn't get rid of skills and having you have to use something over and over again in order to get better at it, but they did for this game, so it seems like they're willing to take risks.
Do you guys think that's an improvement? I've been sort of I'm early enough in the game that I'm not totally sure what I think, but I'm curious what you like. Patricia, what do you think of the new stats?
Not sure that I like it, just because it feels like before you had more room to like grow your build as you went along, but now basically when you start the game you have to know exactly what you're going to want by the end of the game, which means that like as you're going along you're kind of set, like the things that will be available to you are just set, if that makes sense, because you're
right, you choose your path and you're stuck on it, basically.
So I'm not sure I like that. It doesn't feel like it has as much freedom, but also maybe I'll change my mind when I'm a higher level because there's not a level cap, so maybe I'll just end up getting everything anyway. I don't know.
I'm curious. Do you know if is there any kind of a respecking tool in this game, or some kind of potion that you can find or something that you can take and respec your character? Is that possible?
I've not come across it yet. It wouldn't surprise me, but I think it's just literally going to be you'll get so powerful that you'll be able to unlock everything by the end of the game, because you can put points into special if you don't want to take any of the abilities, which can then increase your special. So,
yeah,
it's called cheating, Kirk. It's called cheating.
Right. Well, like I was saying, I've considered just saying, you know what, fuck this, and like actually cheating and turning off, you know, encumbrance so that I don't.
Are there any mods yet? Have people made anything good yet?
I think there are, right?
I think the only one that I've seen so far is this graphics mod, because of course the first one will be a graphics mod, but I'm sure there's other ones. Actually, I saw another one that made the character invisible. There's nothing like good out yet, you know, but
it's like the kind of basic
like a
stuff so far.
random couple of mods that have percolated.
So I will switch. I'm playing on PS4, but I will buy a brand new gaming PC and switch to playing Fallout 4 on PC if someone makes a mod that turns a dog into a golden retriever, like a realistic looking, perfect golden retriever.
It's funny because I'm actually really impressed with Dogmeat. Like, I think the dog really looks like a dog a lot of the time when it's just standing still and moving around. That's one of the most weirdly advanced parts of the game, actually, is like, and a thing that I really like about Dogmeat is that Dogmeat is a incorrigible photo bomber. I don't know if you guys have found this, but while taking screenshots, the dog is so good at getting into your screenshot and posing in this super perfect, goofy, like, hi, I'm a dog.
I just love the way that he looks back on you. Like, he has dog eyes, even though it's not like the render of the dog isn't like super advanced, but they still nailed the way in which a dog would look at you, which I think is really good.
They got. Yeah, I agree. The sort of expression, the way his ears move, I'm assuming he's a he, the way his ears move, his face, there's something, they really nailed something about dogs with that dog. And Jason, I agree, a golden retriever would be cool. You know, though, I found there are other types of dogs in this game. I found a guy he's kind of on the way from Sanctuary to Diamond City off to the, I guess to the east a little. And he was selling a dog, and he's like, I raise dogs and sell them.
What?
And if you want to buy a new dog...
Wait, so you can get that instead of Dogmeat?
Yeah, and I could have bought his dog. I didn't because I like Dogmeat, but it was like a different... I think it was a pit bull, maybe. It looked sort of like...
Are you serious?
But it made me think that maybe there is a golden retriever in the game. Right.
Oh my God, you just changed everything.
Well, maybe. I mean, maybe not.
Reason to keep playing.
Guys,
yeah, you can just find the hidden golden retriever.
That you can put clothes on your dog, so you can put a little bandana and like you can give it goggles. It'll dress up for you. Yeah.
Does it give the dog perks?
Huh?
Does it like give the dog better armor or like better effectiveness in combat?
I know that it does for other characters. I don't know if it'll affect the dogs, but you know what? The dog looks really cool with stuff on, so I encourage all of you to dress your dogs up.
I'm totally gonna do that. That's like it's like D-Dog. It's like dressing up D-Dog in Metal Gear. That's pretty great.
Oh man. Oh man, I'm going to scour the entire map just looking for a golden retriever that I can buy.
just refresh like the Google search for Fallout 4 golden retriever every hour until someone finds it.
I would read that article.
But I don't like it that the dog can get damaged and you have to like inject him with stim packs. It kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, that happened to me once, and I was like, "Can the dog die?" I actually don't know. Can the dog die?
No, the dog cannot die.
That's good.
It'll be like down but not out. So until you give it the stim pack. So you guys are both playing with the dog. You're not using any of the other characters.
No. Have you done any of the? Are they good?
I just got Piper. Yeah, I've been using Piper.
Is she good?
I don't know. I mean, she's a reporter, so I like her. She's a press sneak fuck.
Yeah, I keep like just pretending she writes for Kotaku. Actually.
Yeah,
I do like all the journalism stuff, and that is enjoyable. I feel like she's on to something. I don't know where her story's going to go, but I have a feeling it could go all the way to the top. I've got my suspicions about Diamond City.
Yeah, I'm interested in the idea of the synth stuff, and like I don't think Kirk, you and I definitely aren't too far into the story. Patricia, you're probably much further, but I'm very interested by the idea of people being replaced by synths and synths infiltrating society and that kind of mystery aspect to the game. And I guess MIT is evil. Who would have thought?
Yeah, it seems like somebody had a bone to pick with MIT. It kind of reminds me of the synth stuff, which I'm guessing is going to be pretty central to the plot. It reminds me of that one quest from Fallout 3 that, Patricia, you actually wrote an article about. The what's it called? The Bionic Man quest?
Oh, yeah, the Replicated Man?
Yeah, the Replicated Man, where you're looking for basically a synth who's been hiding in society. And I really liked that mission. So it's kind of cool, right, that it plays a bigger role. Because that kind of stuff, that Blade Runner, replicants hiding among us plot is like a pretty cool plot, I think.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's obviously sort of playing that up as like the game's sort of racial issue. Like all the humans are now on one side of quote unquote, but the way they treat and think about synths is a lot like racism. Like you get to Diamond City and everyone like talks about how they're scared of them and they want to keep them out, and there's just all these like myths about them, and that there's like discrimination a little bit against them, and just it actually. So one of the companions you can get, Valentine, he is a synth, and it's interesting to walk around with him and have him tell you his story. It's like in Diamond City.
It's not a spoiler. He looks like a total robot. Like when I met him, he like his skin is falling off. He's like a very obvious robot.
So yeah, he tells you his story about like when he gets to Diamond City and how they treated him and all this other stuff. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I like the voice actor. I'm not sure who's playing him, but I've met him. I did the first quest with him. I went and rescued him, and then maybe did another one. And he's cool. He's like those kinds of characters, like the central quest story characters, do seem to me to be much better animated and more fleshed out, and better. The performances are much better than in Fallout 3 or in New Vegas. Like I really, am more impressed by that.
Yeah, have you noticed, like, sometimes you'll look at him and he's just, like, repairing his arm or something? Like, there's just a bunch of small details. And obviously I love his character, like, the whole noir thing. All of his dialogue is very suited to that, and he's just a really awesome character. I'm really impressed with that so far.
Yeah, he's cool. I remember having a discussion with him about, how he is a synth, but... and how he kind of reconciles that. And he's sort of explaining that he doesn't actually know what's going on because all synths have their memories blocked if they're, thrown out or deactivated, and how kind of frustrating that is. And it was sort of a really cool conversation. Like I wound up believing him, I think, because the performance was, like the actor playing him is very convincing, and I liked all of that.
It's too bad the dialogue system sucks now.
Yeah,
I really hate it.
You guys have been, you'd been saying you hated it, and I was saying I wasn't sure if I liked it or not. But I don't like it, and I realized that it's entirely because the thing I don't like about it, so I guess maybe to explain to listeners who haven't played and who played earlier Fallout games, is it works differently now in that you have basically up to 4 options that are tied to the face buttons on the controller for any given turn in a conversation. And sometimes those 4 options are the same as it was in old Fallout, where you do them in order and you can ask each one. But then sometimes you just get to choose one, and then the conversation just keeps going, and you can't go back and choose the other ones. And it really does bug me that the game doesn't signal to you which choice you're making. So I'll think, I'll ask about this, and then take that other option, and then it just carries on. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I guess I can't ever ask about the other thing, or like what? Yeah, that bums me out.
I don't like that. There's no sense of nuance to what you say anymore. Like, before you could say, like, really complicated things, and now it's always like, here's the gruff, angry answer, here's the brief, like, positive answer, and it's just not very fulfilling, because I'm playing a charisma character, but it doesn't feel like I'm particularly eloquent, and I don't like that. And I also just don't like not knowing what I'm going to say before I say it.
Yes. Yeah, that drives me crazy.
And I think that has worked in other games. Like I don't mind it in Mass Effect, for example. I feel like this feels a lot like a Mass Effect system.
I was just thinking that. But even the angles reminds me a lot of Dragon Age.
Right.
It looks like a BioWare game, but they have not written it with that sort of,
right. They don't quite have it as dialed in, and as because in Mass Effect, like, I don't really mind that Shepard's answers are paraphrased. When it just says a couple words, and then Shepard will say a whole thing. I think the most famous example of that is in the first Mass Effect, right, where you're talking to the reporter, and you can choose the option "time to shut you up," and Shepard punches her in the face, and you're like, "Whoa!" Like, I didn't, that always kind of cracked me up, because that was sort of when that conversation system goes wrong. I feel like that's what happens, but generally I didn't mind it in Mass Effect, but I do feel it more in this, maybe just because I'm so used to it being the other way around, where you know exactly what you said each time, because your character doesn't actually say it, you're just reading your thing and then hearing the response.
It feels like such the result of a focus group being like, we want voice protagonists. And so Bethesda had to be like some marketing guy at Bethesda was like, you guys have to have a voice protagonist for this one.
It's funny because I think that the voice, like, I'm playing a woman in this, and I think the actor has done a very good job. I think she's good, and I actually really like that my character talks.
But the thing about having a voice protagonist is that you don't want to have all the lines displayed for you to choose from, because then it'll be such an echo. Like, you'll have to read it, then you'll hear them saying it. So the reason they're doing this whole system is so you'll hear something fresh without reading it and then having to hear it. You know what I mean?
Do you remember?
Like, if you had all the options in front of you, then you would just see them all.
Do you both remember when they introduced Kinect for Mass Effect? Do you guys remember that E3 demonstration?
Oh, yeah.
It was so good, where you had to say the thing into your Xbox, and then your character on screen would say the same thing. Because you were talking about the echo, it just made me think of that. It was really funny. People would say, "I'm not sure, tell me more," and then Shepard says, "I'm not sure about that. Can you tell me some more?" And then the guy starts talking, and you literally hear everything twice. It was the dumbest thing ever. And anyway, whatever. Side note.
It is shocking that Kinect failed after that.
Yeah, it was such a added. Such
but yeah,
great
also,
gameplay.
so the reason that it's such like a dumbed down system, I assume, is because of that voice acting problem, which is really irritating. Because like one of the reasons I love these games, Skyrim, Fallout, Baldur's Gate, et cetera, is because I love having a million different dialogue options to choose from, and like really digging into it and like reading it like a book. And this Fallout, and I think one of the biggest things that's turning me off about it is that it feels much more simplistic than previous RPGs that I've liked from Bethesda.
I'm curious whether it's actually simplistic or whether it just feels that way. I think there are some changes they've made that I like not to just shit on everything about the changes in this game, because like I really like that. It's a little confusing sometimes. I'm still working it out. But you know how now when you walk up to someone, this may seem like a small thing, but when you walk up and start talking to them, you can keep moving around, and it's sort of like you're still in the world. It doesn't do the Bethesda thing where it's like, and the camera zooms in on them and you get this weird freeze frame of them centered in the shot and they start talking to you. Like, it just doesn't do that anymore. Now
I like that. I miss that, because now I don't know. I start a conversation with someone and I don't know if they're going to be conversation options, because there's no indication of whether you just talk to a guard and you say what's up and then he just brushes you off, or whether you actually just started a conversation. So like I'll spend a lot of time accidentally walking out of conversations because there's no cue or indication that you just started a conversation like there was in previous games.
Yeah, I think it's not perfectly done yet, but I think it's actually a step in the right direction. I think that the locked in frozen camera thing is not like, any part of me that misses that mostly just misses it because I liked those games, not because it was actually a better option. I don't know, Patricia, what do you think?
I don't like it when you're talking one-on-one with someone and they could be saying something important. When I do like it is when you're walking in the world and there are two characters who are just in a scene and you kind of just hear it in the periphery, and then you can choose, like, oh, do I want to go see what they're talking about? And then you get options while you're there, and that feels more natural to me. Like last night, for example, I was at this place where the entire town was coming together on this square, and this guy was up on a balcony, and he was giving this speech. And I could have walked away from that if I wanted to, but then I just saw it, and I decided that I wanted to hear it. And then I walked forward, and I got more options, and that was cool. But I have had situations where I'm doing a mission, and my companion will say something, and it'll just be idle chatter, and then other times they'll be saying an important story thing, and I won't know, because it'll sound like just a random bark, and I walked away from it, and I don't like that.
Yeah, that does happen. That's happened to me a few times, actually, where I'll be walking around Diamond City, and I'll hear someone say, hey, if you ever see the ghost, and I walk past, and then somebody just says, Matt Marker added.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Like, what? I didn't even hear what he said. Yeah, that seems a little rough. I'm not sure what the solution for that would be, but that is kind of annoying.
I do love that they can give you missions like that. It feels more natural than just like, here's your quest giver, and you know that person's going to give you a quest, versus like just a random guy is able to give you a quest because he mentioned something or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it goes in that miscellaneous quest tab, which seems like it's going to just become full of shit that I didn't do, but maybe I'll go and do it all. I don't know.
Yeah, that was in Skyrim too, and I think it was in Fallout 3. I'm not.
Yeah, I remember in Skyrim, just that became a shit show. That list was just had like 75 menial tasks that I never actually did.
So one thing I do like more in Fallout 4 than Fallout 3 and New Vegas is the gunplay and the shooting. It feels a lot more weighty than previous games. I read that they wanted it to feel like Destiny, and it hasn't gotten there yet.
No way.
No.
It's not quite there.
Not quite.
But it feels good. I mean, the one thing they're missing is that kind of tactile feel of when you hit someone, numbers pop up, and it feels like you actually did damage to them. It still isn't 100% clear when you're not doing VATS if you actually hit someone and how much damage you did to them. But, yeah, I don't know. Patricia, do you like the new gunplay system, the new shooting?
Yeah, whenever people talk about the new system, they always qualify it like, oh, it's good for a Fallout game. But what I've found so far is that I'm barely using VATS, and I'm mostly just shooting freeform, and that's the complete flip of how I played previous games where it was VATS all the time. And then when I ran out of action points, that's when I would, shoot freely. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't compare it to Destiny, but I like it enough that I'm just using it all the time. And just when I get into tricky situations, it's like, okay, now I'll use VATS.
I like, by the way, that we managed to work Destiny in here. I think we've gotten it into every single podcast so far, and we did. Just for a moment, we mentioned it. I think here's the thing I've noticed about combat. So I'm playing the same way I used to play. So I'm doing what you just described, Patricia. I use VATS until I run out of action points, and then I shoot things. Mostly. What's interesting, I think that a really smart change that they made is they removed gun wear and tear, right? Unless I'm mistaken, I believe the guns don't degrade at all now. Where it used to be, like if you played Fallout 3 like I did, I would just have like 7 plasma rifles in my inventory and just be constantly repairing my plasma rifle every time I shot 2 or 3 things with it, because it would just be constantly degrading. And to the point where that, like, I was just assuming that's how it worked in Fallout 4. And what that system did was it encouraged you not to use your weapons because they degraded so quickly, which then so you just wouldn't shoot things. And that's kind of a shitty system. It's a very smart call, I think, on Bethesda's part to just take that out and say, yeah, man, if you have a gun, if you have ammo for it, use it. It encourages me to just shoot things more and try out more weapons and not really worry about it, which I really like.
Yeah, and they've sort of kept a bit of that quality in that, like, ammo is still scarce, so you're still making choices about, like, what you do and do not use, but without worrying about the gun itself, which I like. Right. And so I just, like, once I have a gun that I like and I'm upgrading, I just kind of keep that one, scrap the other ones or sell them, and just don't worry about
shooting. If there's a little bloat fly in front of me, I'll still shoot it if I have enough ammo, because why not?
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys feel like the world as a whole is as good as previous Bethesda games? Like the amount of shit there is to find and do and interesting quests and whatnot? Kirk, have you found that it's better or worse than Skyrim and Fallout 3?
Oh, it's so different from Skyrim. I like it more than Fallout 3 because it's weird. The game is harder, but the world to me feels easier to explore initially. Like it feels like I could go a lot farther without getting completely wrecked by, scrub enemies. And in Fallout 3 for the first 5 or 6 hours, I feel like, or maybe a little less than that just any basic enemy was just kicking my ass. So that's sort of nice. I feel like it feels more open to exploration, even for lower level characters, which I think is cool. Skyrim, it's hard to say. I mean, Skyrim is such an iconic location for me now in video games. When I think of Skyrim, it's just very... I think I probably prefer that just because that, to me, it was such a really amazing...
Yeah, playing Fallout 4 makes me want to play Skyrim again, or get another Elder Scrolls game, just because I prefer fantasy too.
We're never happy. I love that Bethesda finally finishes this extremely ambitious game, and we're like, okay, where's Elder Scrolls 6, guys? Come on,
next
make it happen.
Start crunching, guys.
Get it happening
together. But Patricia, you're a Fallout super fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the world better now than I did in 3 in New Vegas. It's funny, before the release of Fallout 4, I was watching this video where someone was just critiquing the hell out of the previous game, just saying, this world makes no sense. You build these cities and you don't see where people, sleep and, how they eat and, how do they get water here. I don't understand how people have survived. And now it seems like they have addressed every part of that. For example, in Diamond City, you can walk around. There's a garden. You can see where people sleep, even if it's out on the street, and you can see where they get their water, and it all makes sense as a world. It feels more like a world to me. And they also just take a lot of the Massachusetts and make it feel like the actual setting. It's really dense, and I like that. And also just, I don't know, I just moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I'm noticing a lot of stuff about, the way people are over there versus how they are over here. And so I like how standoffish everyone is when you get into Diamond City. They're just get the fuck away from me. I don't know who you are. Stop talking to me. And
just like Bostonians.
Well, it's Boston, yeah.
Yeah. So just in general. And then you couple that with the better art direction. Some places just look beautiful. And I think, Kirk, you were remarking on this, that you'll just stand places and look off into the distance and it looks awesome. And a lot of places have a very specific look that I really appreciate. So I think it's just, I don't feel like they've evolved the fiction of Fallout a ton, so it definitely feels familiar, but in terms of how they bring that familiar stuff to fruition, it feels more evolved, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I hear that.
I was actually in Boston last weekend, and I can confirm that it looks exactly like it does in Fallout. Everything's destroyed.
Right, dead bodies everywhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, the people all look like ghouls. They're all Patriots fans.
Have you noticed, by the way, that there are accents, that there are Boston accents in this game? There are characters that have... I feel like that's the first time I've been playing a game that takes place in this kind of a setting and they've actually done regional accents. I remember in Watch Dogs, no one had a Chicago accent and it was really depressing. So that's kind of cool. I like that
Canadian,
they're doing that.
French accents. In
right, yeah,
Dogs.
Actually. which was not convincing.
So we have to start wrapping this thing up, this Fallout 4 extravaganza. Patricia, any final thoughts on the game? I know that Kotaku readers can look forward to your review probably next week.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be aiming for Wednesday, but no promises. Yeah, I mean...
Nope, sorry, you committed Wednesday.
Now that I said it, it has to come out on Wednesday. Yeah.
Confirmed.
I'm enjoying it a lot thus far. I have very complicated feelings about it thus far, but I'll get into that in the review, so people will have that to look forward to.
Nice.
Good. Great. And Kirk, I'm sure you will be writing lots of Fallout 4 Destiny comparisons over the next few days and weeks.
Or at least lots of articles about Fallout 4. Yeah, I feel like this won't be the last time we talk about the game on this podcast too. But it's a weird mess of a game. I'm into it. I'm going to definitely keep playing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad that The Witcher 3 came out this year because I feel like that kind of blew everything else out of the water, including this.
Yeah,
for a
in
lot
some
of people.
ways, I think. We're actually I think Luke and I are going to be doing an article about that, like where we talk about it pretty soon, just because that's definitely been an interesting point of comparison.
It's also too bad that The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky just came out because that blows everything else out of the water.
Even The Witcher can't keep up with second chapter.
No, I mean, it might not have the same graphical prowess as The Witcher 3, but it's a way better game than just about anything else out there. Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. This has been your Jason Shard Trails in the Sky.
I guess that we have to get Destiny and we have to get Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky into every episode.
Hey, I'm probably gonna be playing that for the next 2 months. So every episode I'm going to mention it in some way or another. Nice. This has been episode 8 of the Kotaku Splitscreen podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find Patricia at Kotaku, of course, and at her Twitter, which is at xpatriciah. You can find all of us at Kotaku. You can find this podcast on iTunes and Kotaku and RSS and whatever the hell else people use
to
listen to
possible.
Podcasts. Please subscribe. Please leave us a nice rating and review because we love ratings and reviews. If you would like to contact us, you can email us at splitscreen@kotaku.com. Send all suggestions, questions, naked pictures, whatever you want. Fallout 4 tips. Could use some more of those. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
All
right, take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.